All right, here we have Robin Gillen, Ann Arbor Police Department, with her partner, Canine Jocko. The narcotic detection is just one of the disciplines that her partner, Jocko, is used for on patrol. Here we see Canine searching a vehicle for narcotics. Jocko's alert when he detects the odor of narcotics is an aggressive alert, which essentially means he scratches the portion of the vehicle that the odor is detected at. Hi folks, Officer Coy once again with another episode of Ann Arbor Shield. And with the show today, because of your requests and your requests only, canine officers are here, 2 of them, and we'll have 2 more at the break. So to my right is Deputy Visel from the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department. I didn't say that the first time, did I? No. No. Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, I appreciate you being here, my friend.
Thank you.
And Officer Bofysil from Eastern Michigan University. I really do appreciate you guys being here. They're not being compensated anyway, though I did offer lunch at some point, maybe next week. But other than that, they're here of their own volition, and I really appreciate you guys being here. We're going to watch a clip real quick on canines and all the science that goes behind it. So as soon as we're done with that, we'll come back in the studio.
Meet Chino. Chino is a 2-year-old German Shepherd handled by police canine trainer David Reaver.
Well, the dog is primarily an olfactory animal. He is going to use primarily his nose, which is better than a human, and an ability to discriminate odors that we don't even totally understand yet.
When a suspect runs from the law enforcement officer, they shed skin cells, and these skin cells are soaked with adrenaline. It's one of the chemicals your body makes under a fight or flight situation. The police canine can smell that adrenaline on the skin cells, and it's like leaving a trail for the police canine to follow.
Step 1, test Chino's ability to track a suspect.
So what we're going to need you to do is hide somewhere in our warehouse here, and then we're going to release him, and we're going to have him track you.
A sniff of the target suspect's sleeve is all Chino needs. And to reveal how a dog zeroes in on a suspect, a wireless camera will provide a dog's eye view.
You ready, Doug?
I'm ready.
We've got our handler hidden in the warehouse, okay?
Okay. It's a dangerous endeavor when you're trying to find an armed suspect who's hiding from you. Using a dog to locate that suspect means a police officer doesn't have to do into such dangerous situations.
This is the police department. I have a police canine. The police canine will be used to find you. When he finds you, he may bite you. Surrender now, and the police canine will not be used.
When locating a hidden suspect, a dog like Chino doesn't rely on vision. With each swing of his head from side to side, Chino inhales multiple unique smells in the environment. When the dog exhales, small slits on the outside of the nostrils flare open, venting out to the sides. This way, the nose doesn't inhale what it just exhaled. Each inhalation enters a maze of chambers. The nasal cavity is a labyrinth of tissue covered with nerve endings. These nerves are the olfactory receptors, and a dog's nose can contain over 200 million of these nerves, up to 40 times more than found in a human nose. The suspect's adrenaline-laced odors translate into electrical impulses and fly to the olfactory cortex in the brain, which identifies and categorizes each unique odor. And as these signals accumulate, the dog knows it's homing in on its target.
That's a boy. Chino, that's a good boy. Good boy.
The phytocam reveals the geometry of Chino's search, known as a scent cone.
Chino takes off and he's smelling right now. And what he's doing is he's homing in on what we call that scent cone. For example, you take a suspect, let's say he runs across a football field, okay? You're at one goal line and he runs to the other goal line. And you release the dog. The dog's probably not gonna run in a straight line. The dog's gonna zigzag back and forth, much like we see in this video. What the dog does is it's picking up that scent, and then as he gets off the scent, he comes back on it. And then that sweep back and forth gets narrower and narrower and narrower, and that's how we call it a scent cone.
All right, back in studio. So, what'd you think, guys? Be honest about the film clip. I thought it was cool. I mean, I'm not a science guy to begin with, but I thought there was a lot going on there. So, we'll start off with a pretty benign question. Why canine for you? Why that specialty? Maybe how many years you've been with the Washington County Sheriff's Department?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 17 years. I've been doing canine since 2004, so just over 12 years, and I'm currently on my third and fourth dog.
Oh, wow.
So I have 2 dogs ride around with me on patrol every day. Being canine was just something I had interest as soon as I joined the Sheriff's Office. I was on patrol, regular patrol, for approximately 5 years. In those 5 years, I got to see dogs from other departments work, and it's just right then and there, I knew I wanted to do it.
Okay. Any idea? I don't want to put you on the spot. Any idea how long they've had canine in the
since 1965 at the Sheriff's Office.
Oh, wow. No idea. Okay. Same question for you, Bridget.
I've been with Eastern Michigan University for almost 3 years. He's been on the road for just over a year. He's Eastern's first police dog, but I've been in canine in other venues since 2009.
Okay, cool. All right, so maybe let's talk a little bit about how maybe the jobs differ with the dogs that you have, what they do, what a typical call out would be for you versus Eastern and so forth and so on. So we'll just banter that way. Go ahead with a typical use of your canine woodies.
Sure. Well, most of the dogs, they are detection specific. Nitro here is a explosive detection dog. My canine Karn is a narcotics detection dog. But in addition to that, we call them patrol dogs because they have multitask. They do building searches, they do tracking, article searches, and believe it or not, a lot of public PR with going to the schools. We go into the schools to try and deter narcotics or any type of criminal activity that may go in there. So there's just a wide range that the dogs are used for, and it's like another tool for law enforcement.
Okay, and probably ask this of you both, but because I've done my career in Ann Arbor, obviously, and I think there's a misconception, if you will. You know, the minute they see a canine, especially if it's around the German Shepherd variety, you know, I think a lot of people have flashbacks of, I don't know, 60s and you know, all the iconic photos we've seen and so forth and so on. So what would you have to say to that, to the person who is repulsed, I guess, by the use of canine for any reason?
Well, it's, you know, they've been used for many years, and one of the things is they're not pets. They are a working dog, and they are treated very well with the families that when they're with us and their families, and how well each department or office treats them. But they are working dogs, so you know, we follow policy and procedure when we use the dogs, depending on the given situation. But you know, like I said before, they're like a tool.
Yeah.
You know, to help deter crime in our neighborhoods.
Right. And then Bridget, you commented that this is their first dog.
Yes.
Do you? I don't want. Again, I don't want you. I'm not trying to put you on the spot because I know we have to be politically sensitive and all that. But do you know what went behind making that decision for the first time and having a dog on campus and so forth?
Well, Nitro's a bomb dog for his detection skills. So a huge part of him is a safety aspect. He can go clear a building, you know, before a dignitary comes to speak. If there are bomb threats, he can go and sweep that. He makes everybody feel a little bit safer. He's not out to find drugs. He's not out to, you know, get college kids in trouble, you know, with that.
Right.
I submitted a proposal to start the canine program in 2015. They accepted it. Nitro is my own personal dog. and
wow.
he was donated to the university.
Oh, cool. Good background story. Okay, so these are some of the questions from the community at large. How many hours, we'll jump back and forth, how many hours do canine dogs work typically each day?
Well, my sheriff's office, we're on 8-hour shifts, so whenever I'm at work, my partner's with me.
Here, buddy.
And that's pretty given with any other police agency. I believe you guys are on 12s?
We're on 8s.
8s
Okay.
too? Okay.
Okay.
But given whenever us as a canine handler are at work, we're always with our dogs.
Okay.
Or the dogs are always with us.
And I'm assuming this is one of the things interesting about police work is someone will stop me, and I'm sure they have you over the years, and say, hey, can you tell me the specs on for semis and what the state law is with regard to having a shield and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have no idea. There's so many specialties within law enforcement and canine, people would ask me questions like, I'm not a canine officer, I wouldn't know the answer to that. So let me preempt that by putting that out there. But one of the things, when you're working the road, there will be times when you want a canine called to the scene, right? So if you guys are home and it's your day off, how does that work with regard to, in other words, I can't just say, hey, have Officer Jones go pick up the dog and take him to so-and-so, right? I mean, you're the handler, so you got to do your thing, right?
Correct. At the sheriff's office, we have a total of 4 canine handlers, 3 out on the road and 1 in the jail, and we all work alternate shifts. We do have an on-call schedule that we follow, but a lot of times there's always a dog working somewhere in Washtenaw County, whether it's Ann Arbor's, one of Ann Arbor's handlers, or Bridget at EMU. And we'll help out other agencies within the department as opposed to calling somebody in from home. So we all as canine handlers in the county know each other.
Gotcha.
We train with each other. So we know how to get a hold of each other, and we'll help out the other person if that department needs it.
I've noticed that, when I listen to the radio, that if so-and-so's not available, they ship out there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, Bridget, about the training with the dogs. I know you guys do it regularly and so forth and so on, but
it's different from every department. We train every week. We have a dedicated training day. We spend the whole day covering all the different aspects of the different areas where your dog is trained at. Then we also use our downtime during our shift if we have it available to do some training, lay tracks for each other, get as much done as possible. Try to always stay up on everything. So
typically, on a given week, the dogs are being trained, or would you say retrained or sensitized, whatever you want to say. How many hours typically out of 7?
Well, we probably put in maybe a little bit more because we have more downtime.
Okay.
So I would say he probably gets 10 hours a week training.
Okay. And when I was out at your post there for some other training, I saw a lot of folks training in the same thing. So is that the same for you guys? A little less, a little more? I mean, it's all same ballpark.
Whenever there's downtime, to get if it's a slow shift, so the dogs aren't just laying around waiting to do something.
Sure.
It's always beneficial to keep up on their skills. So we'll take them if we're down some downtime. We'll do some tracks. We'll lay a track or put some type of narcotic down in the building or car and just kind of keep them top on their skills. It's not something you learn once and then the dog's good. It's just like anybody else. If you want to be good at something, you got to continue to do it over and over and over so you can get better. And dogs are the same way.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got here? They want to know typically how long does it take to train a dog to become a canine a canine useful in the police field? Either one of you.
Well, our basic school, and that was just to lay the foundation for him learning how to find things with his nose, was 5 weeks. And that was just the basic foundation, just imprinting that knowledge into him. But it's an ongoing process.
Okay.
Everything, you can change the difficulty of the training as the dog matures and as they get better. So it's a forever process.
Gotcha. So this isn't, buy a dog that's trained and you're good for the career or whatever. It's a constant. Okay. That makes sense. As a side note, I saw a big article about some agencies using retired, if you will, military dogs. What are your thoughts on that, just from a personal standpoint? Is that a good thing, bad thing? Are there issues with it, or is it a...
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Because you want to know kind of what you're getting into, what type of dog you're getting into, or getting, or receiving. So you don't know if it's a retired dog. I'm guessing it could be a little older dog. So you don't know what that dog has been through, and if there was some issues, if there's not.
Gotcha.
We like to get dogs that, you know, at least a year old, so we can see their temperament, their drive, and then, you know, try to, you know, deter any like bad behaviors or anything, like, and just keep them focused. So usually we don't take a retired dog from somewhere else.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you allow the public to pet or touch the dogs while in public, while they're not working, Bridget? I guess you would run into that a lot.
I do. And as long as somebody asks to come up and pet the dog, and if he's in the right mindset to be social, then I absolutely allow it. If he just finished, you know, aggression training, or if we were working on something where he might just be tired, then it might not be a good time.
And we can go armadillo on this question, all right, if we have to. But I'm curious if your dogs have ever reacted to somebody approaching you or to talk or whatever, and the dog says, man, there's something really wrong here.
Well, with the sheriff's office, we pretty much have a, you know, no hands-on policy. We don't need an accident. We don't need somebody getting injured.
Right.
So it's easier to say, you know, we'll come out, we'll show you what our dogs do, but it is a working dog, so we don't need an accident. So no petting, right? You know, there's pretty much no petting of our dogs.
I got you. I got you.
So.
Okay. And I know the answer to this because I've talked to you guys a little bit, but maybe you could discuss where the dogs live and how that may differ from other departments.
Sure, yeah. My dog lives in my house, lives with me. He's with me 24/7. He's right there with my family. He's just, you know, another dog at the house while it's off work. Some places they'll keep their dogs outside in kennels. Military will keep the dogs at kennels and not take them to where they live majority of the time. But here, I mean, it's just another member of my family.
Gotcha. The same thing is true with you, Drew?
Yeah, for the most part, dog stays at the house with my family. And then the dogs, you know, there'll be occasion where we go on vacation to a place where we can't take our dogs. So somebody has to watch it. So, like, I may watch Nitro or any other officer, canine officer within our department or another department that knows my dog and can you know, feed them and the dog won't get aggressive towards them or whatever. We will watch each other's dogs.
Okay.
But we don't work each other's dogs. We only work our dogs. I wouldn't work Nitro out on the street, and she wouldn't work my dog Karn. But if we are able to house the other dogs just in case for a situation like a vacation.
Okay. So you guys definitely have to have a lot of camaraderie amongst all of the canine officers in the county, right? I mean, for sure. What I'm, all right, here we have one from a union rep who says, do canine officers also get to retire when they reach a certain age? What's the bottom line with that?
I think it would depend on the department's policy. We don't have an age limit in our policy. It's pretty much just the dog's ability. A lot of it just depends on the dog's health and if they've been injured or what they've encountered through their working career. You just retire the dog when the dog's ready.
Okay.
And with our, same with ours, the sheriff's office owns our dogs. And then what they do is when the dog gets up there in age, they want them to have retired life, just like you know, a human officer. So the department will retire them and give them to us. Since they've been working with us for so many years, we get to keep the dog.
Okay.
But you know, we like to have them some retirement, so we don't work them until it, you know, you can obviously see that they're struggling with certain things. So.
Yeah. Here's a good question. Where do you get the dogs from? And for the most part, are they pure breed with regard to, maybe you guys can both touch on that a little bit or discuss it, so to speak.
Well, my dog, I own his mom as well. He's purebred, UKC registered. So it's a little different for me than most places. Most places will go through a kennel or a trainer, acquire a dog that fits their needs.
Okay. Okay. And how does it work with
you? we'll pretty much go anywhere to find the best dog, the type of dog we're looking for. My current dog, who's is a shepherd, Karn, we found him in Hudson, Michigan. And then my newest dog, Beatty, is a 2-year-old German shepherd. He was originally from Slovakia, who was brought over to a kennel in Connecticut. And one of our canine trainers located him over in Connecticut, tested him out, and brought him back. So we're not breed specific or kennel specific. So we'll go anywhere and anywhere to get the best quality dog.
Yeah, this is a Belgian Malinois.
Okay. And I mean,
better than a German Shepherd.
And I've been told again, from a naive, ignorant standpoint, that you know, canines can come from quote unquote mutts, that is mixed breed. They can come, so it really isn't relative to the breed or whatever. I mean, is that true? Is it? I mean, is there a certain breed that you would say you definitely would want to get one from this breed versus over here and that kind of thing, or you just? It
just all depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
It depends completely on the dog and their natural abilities. You know, you can't force a dog to want to hunt for something. You can't force a dog to want to fight instead of run away. You know, either the dog has it or they don't.
Gotcha. Kind of like an officer.
Right.
And we use both male and females for canines to use. So my previous two were 2 females. So it's, like I said, it's not breed specific, it's not gender specific. It's just finding the best quality dog to do what we need them to do.
Okay. And again, Gerrod, Bridget, I really sincerely appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Bringing Nitro. Before we conclude the first half of the show, do you guys have anything that you would want, you know, the public to know, you know, with regard to either Washtenaw County or Eastern and the canine handling or police work in general? Doesn't matter. Just something to share.
I guess I would just say if anybody has any questions when they see us out, stop and ask us.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it before, they're just another tool for us to use in law enforcement, and armadillo, they are taken care of very well. They go to vets regularly, so they do have a lifestyle outside of work too, at home life. They're not just work dogs. They also have a home life too.
Sounds like they're definitely part of your family for sure. All right, thanks for being on the show. We are going to take a small break, and then we will be back with 2 more guests on today's show.
Sunny, but a bit breezy. It's a perfect day for a bike ride. But wait, you forgot something important.
Wearing a helmet is the most important factor to minimize injury and even death if a cyclist is involved in any kind of accident. Although it isn't mandatory, it is highly recommended for every cyclist.
Okay, back in studio. 2 new guests, same specialty, same specialty, man. Officer Jeff Robinson with the Ann Arbor Police Department, and Officer Joe Dunny with University of Michigan Police Department. See, I told you I'd get it right that time. Right? Nice job. Okay, we'll cut to a clip real quick, and then we'll come back in.
I'm Officer Joe Dickinson. This is my partner, Canine Zando. We started working together in 2011, and we've been working together since then. He's 5 years old, and he's from Germany. Zandoplatz. Zandoplatz. Sorry, he's getting antsy. What's cool about Zando is his disposition. What I mean by that, he's very self-right, he's very well-mannered, gets along with kids. He knows when he hears the radio a certain way. He knows how I react. He picks up on my adrenaline, and so when he hears the certain tones on the radio or he hears me hit the lights, he knows it's time to go to work. He loves his ball, he loves to play fetch, and he loves catching bad guys. His first track, we encountered 4 armed suspects after they committed a home invasion robbery with shots fired, and he located 3 out of the 4, with the 4th just coming out and saying, "Okay, I give up." Zando actually dug up a suspect that had buried himself all the way to his head in sand. He's dug up evidence that somebody's tried to bury, and he was able to dig it up and recover it on a stabbing that happened in the shoreline. But with his nose and his demeanor and his drive, he's shined in a lot of different areas. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of him. I spend almost every hour of my day with my partner here, and as my wife gently reminded me that I spend more time with my dog than I do with her, on a light note. But he's very, very much part of our family. So there is a strong bond between us that started when I picked him up on the very first day, and it's continuing to get stronger and stronger as we go. I rely heavily upon him for my safety so that I can go back to my family. That's a lot of trust to put into an animal, but he gives nothing but love back. Everything, the dog, all of our equipment is purchased through public funds and donations that we receive. So the more donations that we have, the more success we can share as a unit, because we can afford to go to different trainings. We can afford to hire trainers from out of state to come in and work with us. We can afford to get the equipment to help Zando and I be successful. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of feelings that are involved in these animals, and yes, we use them, and they're in dangerous situations, and they keep us safe. But of course, there's a very, very strong bond between us, so that's something it's hard to describe in words.
Okay, back in studio. So, first question's for you, Jeff. Now, they talked about relationships, the dog, and why don't you tell us a little bit about Robin, who's also a dog handler, and how that works in the relationship with regard to Robin having a dog, you having a dog, how that all works. Jeff, talk to me, Jeff.
Armadillo.
Okay, you know what? Let's move along. So we're watching this clip, and a couple of things strike me. That was funny. Number one, he gives the dog a command. I assume it's German. Okay. So tell us maybe a little bit of history about that with regard to why somebody might hear a different language spoken to their dog when they're out walking around and so forth and so on.
Well, a lot of these dogs are imported from overseas, and they come here with commands already instilled on them, training that they've had in the kennels that they were born in and trained in. And so when they get to the United States and we start our training with them, it's just a natural progression to keep the foreign command, or the German or the Czech commands that they're already trained in. So both of my dogs that I've had here, they didn't have any previous training before I got them, and so I chose to train them in English.
Okay.
So I have a hard time speaking English when I'm frustrated, let alone a foreign language.
Well said, Joe. Joe, tell us a little bit about your partner. And
my partner's name is Tank. He's a 3.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. He was born and raised here in the United States in Kentucky. We like the Belgian Malinois for their drive and their ability to work. They're very fast dogs. He is an explosive detection dog and a patrol dog. And given our environment at the University of Michigan, we have a lot of dignitaries that come to campus. Yeah. We have one of the biggest outdoor stadiums in the United States that needs to be checked. So.
Right. So typically, how many canines are? And I think Jeff helps you guys out on a game day. How many canines are pre-searching, if you will, the arena and everything else?
We can't go too far into that, what we do for operations, but there is a number of dogs at night and a number of dogs during the day.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
Anything that comes into the stadium that's driven, carried as a bag or a box gets checked by a dog.
Gotcha. And one thing I've always noticed about any canine, no matter what, there's this fascination they have with the ball. Okay, so there has to be more to it than just being a toy. So since you play also, let's hear about what the significance and what that ball must mean to these canines.
So everything that we do with these dogs, it has to be fun. We have to make it fun for them to want to do it. With a dog, if you try to force him to do something, they're just going to shut down. So the ball represents fun for the dog. Okay. So even though we're calling it working, we're going to work, we're going to go either find a bad guy or go look for drugs or explosives, the dog has to know that this is fun, and ultimately if I go and I do this and I find something, I get to play with my ball. And so that's what Joe was talking about, is we have to have these dogs that have a high drive, high ball drive, a high play drive, to be able to even train them. And it's kind of like a big game of hide and seek. If you go out and you find this, when you find it, you're going to get to play with your ball or your tug or whatever it is your toy is, and it's going to be the greatest day ever.
I got you. Okay, well, that makes sense. The one thing that this handler talks about repeatedly is what he calls the demeanor of the dog. Now that comes as a little surprise to me, because I would think, after you spent a generous amount of time with these dogs, you would have that, it's like having a good road partner, when you're working on the road. You just develop that relationship, but it sounds like, from, if I'm hearing him right, that each dog has its own demeanor, and to have the right demeanor coupled with these other things is pretty unique. So one of you guys touch on that?
Well, they're just like humans. They have their own behavior traits. They have their own personality. A lot of times, once you bond with the dog, your personalities start to coexist together as you guys are out there on the road doing your job, or when you're at home and stuff like that. So you kind of take on their personality, they kind of take on yours a little bit.
Poor dog. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. All right, so we'll switch over here to some of these questions we didn't get to in the first half. We'll go to you, Jeff. How does a dog qualify to be in, this? I mean, we talked a little bit the first segment on what, where you might find them, but what kind of things does a dog have to go through, so to speak, for you to pick them out as your partner, so to speak? I mean, what are you looking for, or where do you go, and how is that decision reached?
Well, it goes right back to the ball drive. If we go to a kennel where we might purchase a dog, and they have several dogs there, and some of the dogs could care less about the ball. You take a ball in there and you're playing with the ball, and the dog over here is not even looking at you, but the dog over here wants that ball. That's the dog that I would choose to start with. So you have to make sure that that dog has the drive and the ability to do the police work. And the reason that we go with the Shepherds and the Malinois is they're just pure athletes. They can do everything that we ask them to do. They can jump walls. They can take down a 200-pound man if we needed them to. They have incredible endurance with long searches and long sweeps. You're sweeping the U of M stadium. Right. You need a dog that can handle that. So picking out a dog, we want one that is going to have the drive to do what we're going to ask them to do.
Okay. And Joe, I think we touched on the training thing. What age typically do you, is a dog eligible as far as age goes with being in police service?
Well, with our department, what we like to do is we get them about a year old. Okay, you want to get a lot of that puppy out of them. And anybody who's had a dog knows what I mean when I say puppy. The not listening, the wanting to tear up everything, chase everything. Okay, and then you go from there and you do exactly what Jeff said. You got to make sure that the dog has the drive you want. Okay, at that point, and you can tell right away that the dog has the drive you want, whether it does or not. And then after that, it depends on what you're training the dog for, whether it be explosive detection, tracking, or patrol work. Okay.
Okay. It's not on here, but we talk a lot about dogs having different specialties, so to speak. Maybe you could just, in a generic way, kind of speak to that with regard to how each dog may have different abilities from this dog over here, and how that might be used or not used or so forth.
Well, our first police dogs in Ann Arbor were black labs, and so what we called them were single-purpose dogs. They were a detection dog and a tracking dog, and So black labs are happy-go-lucky, big kind of goofball dogs, so they might not be as suited for protection work like a German Shepherd or a Malinois. So their specialties might only be a single purpose, where when we transitioned over to more of a utility dog, our specialties opened up for what we could do with the Shepherds and the Malinois versus the black lab.
Okay, that makes sense. I asked this to my first two guests, the previous show. So I'll ask it of you guys. Joe, why canine? Why a canine handler?
Well, as a matter of fact, when I was in the police academy, Ann Arbor police officer came over with the dog and worked the dog for the academy. Thought it was really interesting. And then as my career went on, it's kind of a hard field to get into. Once somebody's in it, they kind of stay in it. Not a lot of spots open up. I was fortunate enough a spot opened up. I put in for it, got it. I took over a dog that I had a previous handler that got injured. So I worked that dog until she retired, and then I started with Tank, so he's my second dog.
Okay. And I'll change the question for you, Jeff. Actually, I'm curious about this. In your opinion, what makes a good dog handler? You know what I mean? 100 guys put in for the same, the same position. And if you were in charge, let's hope that never happens, but let's say you were in charge of hiring this canine handler, what attributes would you be looking for in the officer?
Well, not to toot our own horn, but you have to be motivated. You have to be somebody that is going to almost come in early and stay late if needed. There's been times when I've worked a 12-hour shift and I'm on my way home and something else happens and I get called back in. So you have to be motivated. You have to have a facility or a kennel at your house, be able to house a dog at home. Obviously, you have to like dogs. You can't be scared of dogs. And all of those wrapped in one package. You got to be able to train on your days off. Like today is all of our days off, but we came in here because we want to be a part of this and let people know what we do and how we do it.
Yep. Tuck this way back of your minds. I mean, I don't want the answer now, but it's completely gone. Lost it just like that. Let's move on. Armadillo.
Something about the community, right?
No, it was a really good question too. It happens typically once or twice a show. How many hours we covered that because they basically work as many hours as the handler works, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, essentially. What's a typical work day look like for the dogs and the officers? And I know you guys came up with these, and they're good questions. When people ask me that, it's like, I don't mean, what do I say? I mean, so maybe we could switch this up a little bit. Maybe give us, that was the question, your best success story. Maybe it's finding something or someone, or I mean, I have no idea. I just found out about Brayton's thing helping. Sorry, I got sidetracked. One of your best success stories, one that you're proud of, that you and your partner accomplished.
I think we all have two different types of success stories, and I know my biggest is finding a missing kid who walked out of or ran away in the middle of the night, and the parents woke up, and your worst nightmare is your kid's gone, and so they called me there to track, and we ended up finding the kid in his sleeping bag around a neighborhood business, sleeping outside. Wow. And so that was a great day. But then we also have our other success stories of catching bad guys, and I've had several with both of my dogs, and probably the best one is out in Washtenaw County. I was called to help out there with a home invasion, and the person ran, and we found him hiding in the bushes a couple blocks away.
Wow, outstanding. Joel, any?
Actually, my best success story was with my former partner. Her name was Taser, and it was for Ann Arbor Police Department. I had a suicidal subject who ran out of the house. He was attempting suicide in front of his parents. They didn't know which way he went, so we did a track off a START article. They went and got his coat, put it in the parking lot. Dog tracked through the actual Huron River, across the river, and into a wooded area, and we found the subject attempting again to commit suicide.
Wow.
We stopped the suicide and got him the help he needed. So.
Outstanding. Those are, yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Those are outstanding.
You're welcome, Joe.
Yes, they really are like that in real life. We talked about that a little bit. Oh, here we go. What skills do the canine dogs have, or what can canines do that people can't? And obviously, I mean, right off the bat, we would say smell, but maybe you could go, I mean, because they were, you know, they're used in the military for decades. So maybe we could reframe it to say why you would want a dog riding with you, so to speak, than a person, you know, a human. You know what I mean? Especially you. But why you would rather have a canine with you, and what do they bring to the field that would be an advantage over, you know, a human being?
The biggest answer is their nose. In the first video segment, it kind of went into the science of it. Part of the reason we use these high drive dogs is because they have almost a alpha dog type A personality, and so we want to use those dogs to our advantage, where I'm in charge most of the time, but when I put my dog at the end of a line to look for somebody that's ran from us, I can't smell that. So I'm counting on the dog to smell that person that ran away from us, or the person that left us that we're looking for. So I have to rely on the dog to find that odor, and because I can't smell it. So the short answer is their nose is the biggest reason we need these dogs.
Okay. Yeah, obviously that makes a lot of sense. Anything that you can add? I mean, other than
I think also to touch on that is the ability of the dog. They have no fear. Okay, whereas somebody might second guess going into a building to look for a bad guy and whatnot. The dog looks at it as a game. It's not an issue of, oh, there's a bad guy in there that can hurt me. No, my reward's in there and I'm going to go get it.
Really? Now that actually does kind of shock me, because I would just think, you know, anyhow, wow, I would have no idea. Okay, that makes total sense.
It goes back to that drive.
Yeah.
Ball drive, the ball drive.
I can see what you're
drive.
saying with why that would be important, man. Okay. And I asked this of the other two handlers the first time, but is there anything that you would want, you know, the public to know with regard to canine handlers, you know, when they see you out in the field or what have you? And I know you both, or all four of you, do a lot of public service things for schools, and you're always, you know, doing demos and so forth and so on. So that obviously is available. But aside from that, if let's say you're working an actual track, what should the public be aware of? And I mean, you know what I mean? Because I think maybe somebody's seen you do a track and they think, I mean, I don't know, maybe you know, the dog is going to bite somebody who finds them, instead of the scenario you just laid out with a missing child. So what would you like the public to know if you're out working the dog?
Well, the biggest thing is that we're here to help the public, and if they see us out, and people around here are pretty good about it. When they see us out working with the dog, they'll ask, "Is everything okay?" And if we're just practicing or training, we'll say, "Oh, we're just practicing. We're just doing some training." Or, "Yes, we're looking for somebody. Can you go back in your house?" Because part of the success that we have is an uncontaminated area. So if a bad guy runs through somebody's backyard, we need that area to be uncontaminated with just the bad guy's odor, not all the neighbors out looking for the bad guy or the missing person or whoever we're looking for.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I actually got chastised once as an officer on scene because I was, well, mucking it up a little bit.
I apologize.
Wasn't you? All right, we're going to watch so we've changed the format of the show a little bit. It used to be Tip of the Week. Now it's Hero of the Week, which, strangely enough, is going to involve a canine officer. So we'll watch this clip, then we'll come back and close the show out.
What is the emergency there?
My child is missing.
Okay, how old is your child?
Not even 2.
Boy.
Deputy Sean Malloy and his canine, Carr, took on the intense search for a missing toddler.
My first thought was he went straight into the cornfield.
Carr had other ideas.
Up ahead of me was a firefighter.
But the canine paid no attention to the other first responders.
At that point, I was thinking he's on something good here. Sometimes you can hear him pretty loud snorting. His tail's wagging pretty good. His ears perking up.
Deputy Malloy says the threat of severe weather added urgency to the tracking mission, but he wasn't worried.
He had his head up. If you see him now, he's hopping.
At that point, he says wild horses couldn't have stopped his dog.
About right here, he pops his head up and looks that way. That time I look up and I see the kid about halfway down. My heart dropped and I was like, oh, there he is, right in front of me.
Deputies say it is a blessing the little boy didn't wander into the corn. It's 6 feet tall and could easily conceal a child. In fact, out here, the weeds are so dense, searchers may not have spotted him.
Fortunately, the toddler was happily wandering in a clearing between 2 cornfields.
He's just out for a stroll. He wasn't crying or nothing.
Deputy Malloy says he hoisted the boy on his shoulders, and when the ordeal was over, the missing toddler posed for a picture with his heroes for the Fairfield County Sheriff's Facebook page. Carr has served on the force for less than a year. This was the canine's first tracking mission, a rescue that is likely a career high for dog and deputy. Maureen Cosat, 10 TV News.
Phooey. Phooey.
Okay. There's something, and I'm not a canine handler. I've had a couple dogs in my life, but there's something about watching a dog track and doing, and then hearing you guys, you're reading his tail and you're reading the ears. There's just something that's kind of a high to watch that, as a third party back a little bit. So we're almost ready to close the show out, but as you watch that and reflecting on your careers thus far in canine, how would you describe the relationship with your dog? Because we saw it earlier that this handler said, and I thought he said you could see that there was a deep, I don't want to get goofy, but there's a deep emotional connection to the animal that you have, and if you guys are willing, because cops, let me tell you something. Cops are the last ones to talk about emotion and heart and all that stuff, but I'm stretching them.
Well, if you can't see the connection right here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
I mean, what does he care about
yeah,
right
yeah,
now?
Yeah.
He doesn't care about you guys.
Total devotion, man.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Joe?
No.
Okay, cool.
That says it all. Right there.
Agreed. Okay, thanks, guys, for being on the show. I really
Thanks
appreciate
for having
it.
us.
You bet, man. All right, so that'll wrap it up this week, and we will see you next time for another episode of Arbor Shield. Thanks a lot.